Welcome back to Control Alt Lead, the podcast from computing where we talk to IT leaders at the sharp edge of strategy. This week I'm joined by Flook, who is the emerging technology lead at E.ON. Now, one of the things that makes the technology sector so interesting is its many routes in, but we're still seeing a largely homogenous workforce. Now, Cara, you come from a pretty non-traditional tech background. Your background is in dance rather than computer science. So how did that come about? And do you think that's given you any specific advantages over someone from a more traditional techie background?
Yeah, so like you've said, I have a degree in dance, which is very kind of unusual, I suppose, for this field, perhaps. Has it given me any specific advantages? Yes and no. So from obviously a technological knowledge perspective, absolutely not. There are no similarities between the two. They're very far removed from each other. But I would say from a soft skills perspective, I actually think it has. So if we think about dance, it's taught me to be confident, or even if I'm not confident, to act like I'm confident, even if I'm panicking underneath a little bit. And I think those sorts of performative skills, the ability to feel cool under pressure, or not to sort of show when things are affecting you, I think that has really had an advantage for me personally in my career. It's mean that I'm quite confident doing things like this podcast, or going and talking to the board, or different things that I might be asked to present on, etc., which a lot of people maybe might find quite daunting. On another aspect as well, similar guys, but storytelling. Again, your ability to be able to win somebody over by telling a good story is also a very good skill, which again is kind of loosely crafted through my career in sort of performance art, etc. And then my last thought was something around resilience. So obviously there's a lot of setbacks in things like dance, mental perseverance, physical perseverance, and things like that. And obviously lots of people get those through other skills, but in other areas. But I think through dance, I've sort of honed some of those skills originally, and they've instilled that in me.
Yeah. Plus, you can do a lovely plie.
I can, yes.
That's fantastic. And I think those soft skills are becoming more and more important in tech. We see, many more IT leaders now becoming business leaders, CIO going to COO, for example, even some CFO roles being integrated there. So how important do you think it is for other techies to have these soft skills at, not just the IT leader level, but at every level of tech?
I mean, I think it's very important. And I think it also is intrinsically depends on the types of roles that you do as well. And what you're going to get out of that role as well. Like you'd mentioned, obviously, as you go further and further up the ladder as well, that broad spectrum gets wider around what you do. It's less about the actual technology, and it's more about, your ability to lead people, to see strategic direction, business change, that sort of thing. And of those things, you have to use your soft skills to be able to do that and to hone those skills. And so, like you said, as you seem to get into those areas of progression and those business areas, they become more and more important, I think.
Yeah. Now, you and I have talked before, and you have called yourself a people techie, not a techie. So can you just define what that practically means?
Yeah. So I do like to describe myself as a people techie, because I think it sets the tone when people meet me of kind of get an understanding instantly a little bit more about what I'm interested in and what I do. So personally, from my perspective, I'm not somebody who's really driven by hardware. I'm not really excited about it. I'd love to be, but I'm just not. It's not for me. I'm not really excited about quantum chips and GPUs and the latest graphic cards and devices and all that stuff. It's great, but that's not the thing that I'm really passionate about. Where my curiosity naturally goes is that I'm motivated by people, the potential, and change and outcomes. So no matter what I've done in previous careers as well, that's always been a thread that's gone through. It's always about the possibility of change and advancement for the better. So that's where I've sort of sit naturally in that tech space. I'm really into how tech helps people, how it improves experiences, reduces friction for people. And I think then that makes me slightly different in that guise and gives me a slightly separate space to play in. I make a lot of decisions based on user value. So not necessarily about the hardware itself is the thing. It might not be the latest, greatest, coolest, sexy tech, but actually, is that basic thing going to really make a massive difference to our people or our customers or colleagues or life in general? Who benefits from it, and what it means for people, really. And also, are they going to be able to use it? Because it's no good having something that's really cool, but no one can use it.
Sure. I think for an emerging technology lead to say they're not excited about quantum chips is slightly sacrilegious.
I know, I'm sorry. And some people that I know are probably going to then quote me on that. I am also excited by it. I'm excited by the possibility. And I also did really geek out because I was lucky enough to go to IBM last year in Stuttgart and actually see their quantum computer, Arden. And I was really excited by that. But if you start to talk to me about how many qubits now you can get on a chip and all of those good things, I'm kind of a little lost.
Yeah, you can get a bit bogged down in detail sometimes. So from a practical point of view, what does your role as, people techie, as someone from a non-traditional background, what does that look like day to day? What decisions are you making that a more traditional technologist perhaps wouldn't?
Yeah, so I mean, it's probably quite important to note that whilst I am kind of a people techie, I obviously do also kind of understand some of the technological aspects of things. And I also have a team around me who also look at those aspects. So I suppose it's kind of holistically, we kind of all have bases covered. My team, I often describe us as a little bit of a unicorn because actually when they were looking for this role where I work, they put it out as a job spec for one person and then decided actually that person does not exist because it's very different attributes. So I think some of the things, the decisions that we make that might differ is things like really making sure that everything's got good guardrails on it, looking at some of the value of the technology that we're assessing or driving forwards. Not just whether it will feasibly work, I suppose, whether it morally should work or is a good fit right now, I suppose, for our people and where we're at in terms of technical adoption, etc. Those sorts of things. So I think both sides are obviously relevant and they're really required. It's just having that holistic lens, I suppose, of all of those areas together.
Part of your work also involves working with schools. I know that you go there to challenge these outdated perceptions of IT. So obviously we know that children are the future. We need to maintain that pipeline into the tech space. So what do young people today consistently misunderstand, or what are they getting wrong about modern tech careers?
Yeah, so you're right. I think it's such a big thing for people in the IT industry as well to try and dismantle that perception. Because as you said, I do a lot of work. I'm an enterprise advisor for schools in my area. And I go into schools and talk to them about what careers in tech really look like and try and sort of dismantle some of that. And one of the first things that I ask is, what do you think a career in technology looks like? When I say I'm a technologist, what do you think I do all day? What do you think? And it's very much still the stereotypical IT guy sitting, working in some kind of shoebox office, hunched over a laptop, very solitary, with some headphones on. They think it's maybe a lonely career, a one that you need certain specific skills for. They very much picture a back-end dev coder. That's kind of what they imagine. Or on the flip side, they might also then think sometimes that we're actually all really great tech moguls and we've got tons of money and flash cars and Lamborghinis and all these things. So it's very disparate between what they actually perceive, and obviously they have no real notion generally of the plethora of jobs and roles and career paths that are involved in a career in technology.
Yeah, so they're kind of picturing either a cubicle monkey or Jeff Bezos.
Yes, basically, yes. And then I rock up as a youngish-ish, I'm going to say youngish woman, and they're kind of a little confused and say I don't actually do any development, and then they don't really understand. And I have to sort of break down some of those barriers and build up what that bigger picture looks like. And a lot of what I do, as you mentioned earlier, is to also talk to them about those soft skills as well, because again, people at the ages that I go in and talk to aren't necessarily even thinking about a career in IT because they don't know what it looks like. So it's kind of also getting them to think about their soft skills, because that's something they can relate to. Oh, I am really good at numbers. I am a really strategic thinker. I am creative. And then they can start to then think, oh, how might that apply to those different types of roles actually that you've just shown me there? And maybe I don't have to do this X, Y, Z. Maybe I could go and do these things that I'm also interested in.
Sure. So based on that, if IT teams and leaders want to open up their hiring pools, is perhaps just explaining, reaching out to schools and explaining what tech really involves today, is that a good place to start?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of twofold, really. If you sort of want to diversify your workforce and your hiring pool, etc., it's that there's two things. You can look inwards at your own workforce. You can look outwards at the pipeline that's potentially going to be the next generation of that workforce coming in. And it's both ends. You've got to tackle it from top down and bottom up, really. If you look outwards to the people who are maybe going to go on study STEM subjects or even not study STEM subjects, who of those are interested in careers in technology, it's very low, and it's very undiverse. So I think it's kind of being able to show up has been really important. And I do a lot of that just to make sure that I show up as a woman working in technology, just to be able to see that affects big change. So I'd sort of encourage employers and companies or anybody who's working in this field to go out, showcase what you do, and sort of help demystify that. Talk about your career. It's really quite easy to go and talk a little bit about what you do day to day, and the students are usually really interested because they only get one view, and it's that view through education. And quite often, obviously, educators have got a lot on their plate. They can't keep up to speed with all the crazy advancements in the whole world of every career. So they really need people in industry to go in and help sort them out and talk a little bit about what they do and give examples, so they can support the students in that pipeline. And then
talking to students in education is very much playing the long game, as it were. You're preparing the next generation. But how about in the short term? If IT leaders, CIOs, CTOs, if they need people, now within the next 2 or 3 months, and they want to diversify those processes, should they be looking at perhaps redesigning how they recruit or where they reach out to?
Yes, there's a few things, and I think it's very circumstantial as to what you could do or what pathway or how you might go about this. But some of my own thoughts and some of the things that perhaps have also put me off applying for roles, perhaps in the past as well, is really looking at your job spec. That's something quite simple that you can do, something that you've got to do anyway if you're going to go recruit for that role. There's a few things. If you're open as an employer to flexible working, make sure it's stated on there and that it's not just an afterthought, it's right at the top. Be able, if you're able to do part-time, again, showcase that as well. And that is quite a big barrier to females entering into those roles in those fields. Likewise, same with remote or hybrid work, etc. It's always a bit of a bugbear for me. It might be a personal preference, but I don't like it when people don't put the salary expectations or a bracket. I always think, yeah, don't waste my time. Okay, so if you want me for that job role, I don't know if you're going to pay me a really low, much less than what I would want to move for, or actually really high up there, and I'm going to want to maybe make that career move. You don't want to waste someone's time in between. So again, that's just something in general that probably maybe most people get put off by.
But nobody wants to go through 3 rounds of interviews to find out that they're taking a £10,000 pay cut.
No, that's it. Specifically. And also, on that as well, statistically, women are less likely to be a bit more bold about asking for the money that they want. So again, you might also find that even if you hire those people, you've got that gender pay gap because they're not asking for what they want as well, in that process. The most important thing I think that you can do is really look at the expected criteria and be really honest with yourself about whether the expected criteria on your job spec is really what you need, or is it desired? Because again, statistically, women are less likely to go for a job if they don't meet 80 to 100% of that job expected criteria, or even if they don't tick off some of the desired. And those are just nice to have. Whereas a man's going to put his hat in the ring for around 50% or even lower. So again, you're maybe unexpectedly turning people off that job by putting too many things or things that perhaps you could be more flexible on, and focus on some of those soft skills as well. It might even be an expected thing that soft skill is expected, and then maybe that boosts their confidence to apply for that role as well, because it's a soft skill as opposed to necessarily a hard skill. And be clear about things like, if you don't need a job to start for a few months, or you're going to bake in some training time, that it's expected that you learn this thing, but you will do it on the job. So I think it's just really about how you sort of frame those things. And lastly, I suppose, supporting people to pivot mid-career as well. So if you've really got good people and pipelines within your company, it's about making sure that those people feel that a career in tech is accessible, even if they're, in finance or in project management or something else, that those skills that they've got and the experience that they've got is relatable, and that they can be of great value in those things, or a pathway to how they could bolster up some of those skills if they are interested in pivoting. I talk to a lot of people at my own company who are really interested in tech careers, and they just come for a chat. So even things like that, identifying people, mentors, etc., who can sort of help and say, oh, don't worry, about 5 years ago, I didn't have any clue what I was doing either. And, those open and honest conversations really help and make people think that, yeah, they are worth putting their name in for that job.
Sure. One other thing that I want to ask you about while we have time is the rise of artificial intelligence, because it's very much coming up there. Skills in AI are, increasingly necessary. That means some roles are going to become more technical by default. So perhaps this is just asking a big forecasting question. Do you think the future of tech skews towards more specialists, or towards people like you who sort of bridge across disciplines?
Yeah. So I actually think both. Maybe I have to pick a side, but I kind of think both are still needed. That as tech gets more and more complicated, AI is growing arms and legs, and it's so fast paced. You need those real technical skills, those AI engineers, the data engineers, everybody. You need those skills, and that technology will not advance without those skills and those people. But on the flip side, the technology itself is getting more and more complex. But how we use that and the user experience is being simplified, because again, how it's shifting is quite interesting, really, in that more and more applications of that technology is to be able to speak to it in natural language, and be able for an average user to be building an agent for themselves, for example. So I think with that comes somebody who needs to bridge the gap still as well. You can't quite just hand off some of these things to people and expect them to be able to use them, understand the base level or the logistics or the art of the possible of using them. So I think a lot of that will still fall to people in roles like myself, who can sort of visualize the future, get the gist almost of where the tech is going, the art of the possible, get excited about it, and then sell that vision to others and help lift them up to use it.
Brilliant. Cara, Thank you so much for joining me. That's all the time we have, but that has been a really insightful conversation. Thank you. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us. And you can always head over to computing.co.uk for more IT interviews, research, and analysis. We'll see you again next time.